Hola, hola, hola. Hello, beloveds, and welcome to another episode of A Spiritual Remedy Conversation and Meditation. I am Sunshine Day, your spiritual living coach. You know, I see a world where clean and sober people are living their best life and loving it. And so I get to provide the spiritual tools and loving support for your personal transformation. One thing I always note about our time together is that you do not need to be officially in recovery in order to benefit from the spiritual tools that I provide. It has its benefits for all. Wow. I want to be transparent with you. I have recorded today's session because I am on the beautiful island of Puerto Rico. I am on vacation visiting 3 islands, Culebra, Vieques, and Puerto Rico. And I wanted to make sure that we continue on our spiritual path and we continue to grow and unfold. So, hello. Please type in hello and let me know that you are watching and streaming with me live today. It's so important to know that you are here with me. So, you know, the month of March, we have been really looking at imagine and the proper use of our imagination and using the gift of imagine in order to create the life that we crave. I see imagine as a gift. You know, the gift of imagination, the gift to be able to conceive the life that we crave, the life that we want to be living. It is only achieved by what we can imagine, what we can see in our mind's eye. And it's so interesting that when I say that, see with our mind's eye, I usually close my eyes because I'm not talking about using these things here in which to imagine. I'm actually thinking about our inner eye, because once we actually see it with the physical eye, it meant that something that we've have imagined before is now true and is now here in the present. And so all month long, we've been looking at what you've been willing to imagine. Have you been willing to imagine a life drug, alcohol free, a life filled with joy and happiness, a life free from anxiety, fear, despair, depression, a life filled with freedom and power and presence, a life filled with abundance and prosperity, a life filled with love and family and friends. If you've been able to actually practice using your imagination and being able to imagine your life that powerful, that free, that loving, that kind, then by now, by the end of March, you've been able to actually experience the power of imagine and the power of your imagination. So let's just take another quick look at the meaning of imagine, right? So imagine is to form a mental image, a mental picture, or a concept of ... I know a couple of weeks ago, I used the idea of an architect. Actually, it was on International Women's Day on March the 8th, where I used the idea of an architect and how she can use her imagination and she can imagine a building, a structure, something that she's creating. And that this architect begins to draw out and put down on paper what it is that she sees with her mind's eye. And then from there, it actually then becomes plans, and it also then becomes the building, the structure, the cottage, the home, the office building, whatever it is that she has created and whatever it is that she has imagined in her mind's eye. And it's like that for us. So by now, you have practiced using the gift of imagine to be able to create a life that you crave. And by that, I mean that you've been practicing on a daily basis, being still, slowing down, being silent, and then engaging your imagination to actually see yourself as someone who's clean and sober, as someone who's happy, joyous, and free, as someone who is making healthy food choices, as someone who is free from depression and despair and anxiety, that you've been able to actually see yourself and that you've been entertaining in your mind's eye this vision of yourself as a healthy person, as a healthy individual, as someone worthy of your life. And that is the key, is that we get an opportunity through the power of imagine, through the gift of imagine, by the proper use of our imagination, we get to actually recognize that our living is worthy of our life. My living is worthy of my life. And that how I live is worthy of life itself, because life itself is a gift. And so as you begin to really incorporate the use of imagine and the use of your imagination in your daily, regular spiritual practice, along with the other things that we have begun using as our daily spiritual practice as well, we're simply adding to and expanding upon that which is already so rich, that which is already so powerful. So if you've had some success from the beginning of the month all the way to now, the 29th of March, go ahead and type in the chat what you imagined in the beginning of the month and what has actually been manifested. How are you seeing that the mental picture that you have put up on the screen of your life, how that mental picture is actually who you're stepping into and who you are becoming? Go ahead and take a moment to type that into the chat so that those of us who are here today can actually bear witness to the power of these spiritual principles and the power of these spiritual practices and the power of creating these habits, these small things that we do on a daily basis that actually enlarge upon our living and actually help us to live a life beyond our wildest dreams. So, where are we going from here? How do we tap off and how do we begin to actually bring closure to this month's topic of Imagine? And what I wanted to do was simply read to you the affirmative prayer that I wrote for this month. And I'm going to invite you to have my words be your words, that as I say I, that you say I, that you're repeating this to yourself and that you're recognizing that this is actually a collective prayer. And then from there, I'll have a few more words before we actually dive into another spiritual practice. So let's just enter a prayerful state of being right now. Whatever that is for you, it might be just pausing whatever it is that you're doing. Some people like to bow their heads. Some people like to close their eyes. Some people like to leave their eyes wide open for the experience. So whatever it is for you, this is affirmative prayer. This is actually words spoken that affirm your living and your being. It's also called spiritual mind treatment, This is the opportunity where through the spoken word, we have this chance to recognize a power and a presence. And we get to recognize that we're one with this power and this presence. Therefore, we can speak into it, that which we want to experience. In other words, it's sometimes called name it and claim it, where we declare it, where we know that it's our truth. We're not asking or beseeching. We're just simply making statements of truth, and we are treating our mind. In other words, when we think about like when we go to physical therapy and we get these treatments or things like that, this prayer, affirmative prayer or spiritual mind treatment, is the treatment that we give our minds to correct it from the false thinking. This is the treatment that we get. This is the spiritual prescription. And that's why this is called a spiritual remedy, because this is the spiritual prescription, which is the treatment for the false beliefs. This helps us to anchor in the truth of who we are. So as you see it as spiritual medicine. This is the prayer that's the spiritual medicine for our mind, and it helps us to think and see clearly and correctly. So with that, just join me in relaxing for a moment. I'm gonna just tilt my head down so that I can read the prayer that I wrote specifically for this month's theme. The power, presence, and life that has created all things, I recognize as God. God is all-knowing, everywhere present, and all-powerful. God is creative intelligence, indivisible, absolute. God is beauty, peace, and love. God created everything out of itself. Therefore, that life is my life now. God is expressing in human form as me. That which is true of God is true of me. My life is the life of God. As I know this about God and myself, I also know this same truth about all life. I speak this word now with the same authority as the one that has created me. I now accept that my mind creates from infinite intelligence. My imagination is keen, and creativity flows from me easily and effortlessly. The ideas, thoughts, and intuitive notions that I entertain are beautiful. They are perfect, and they generate gifts to humanity in infinite ways. I allow myself the pleasure and the opportunity and the gift of imagination, knowing that it serves a high calling. My imagination serves me well. The imagination of God is my imagination now. With ease and with great and grand appreciation, I accept my imagination. My gratitude joyfully expresses internally and externally. I give thanks for the knowing of this truth. I now release this prayer into the law of God. I joyfully look forward to all the ways my imagination demonstrates in my life. And now it is. And so it is. And so I hope you notice how powerful the statements were in this spiritual mind treatment, in this prayer. This prayer is called affirmative prayer because it is used to affirm that which is the truth of my life, that which is the truth of your life. It is not it's not a prayer that is beseeching or asking some external power to grant me and to be kind to me, or I don't have to prove my worth and be good in order for an external power to bless me, kind of like Santa Claus. I'll be good because I want a gift at Christmas time. But this powerful prayer here, this affirmative prayer, this spiritual mind treatment, is actually a scientific prayer. It is designed that when I speak it and hear it, that I am reminded of my truth, that I am reminded that I am made in the image and likeness of creative intelligence, and that there's nothing that separates my life from its life. And that because it created everything out of itself, that I, right where I am, the same power and presence and love and joy is available to me right now. Now, it's different than saying that I am God itself. No, I am the unique and unrepeatable way that God expresses in human form. Therefore, that which is true of God is true of me with this human capacity. And if I can just begin to use my imagination to see that with my own internal vision, I begin to then recognize the divinity within me, that my life is worth it, that I deserve sobriety, that I deserve to be clean, to be abstinent, to have a life beyond my wildest dreams. And that through the power of my spoken word, through the power of my word, that I can actually begin to create a life that I crave. That's the power of a spiritual mind treatment. I am treating my mind. That's the therapy, right? I am treating my mind and correcting all of the ways that I think that I am less than, or that I'm not worthy, or that, my life is doomed to be, an alcoholic or a drug addict or an overeater or a gambler or a sex addict or whatever else, really riddles the human existence. No, the truth of who you are is that right where you are, God is. The presence of this almighty power, this infinite intelligence, it is who you are. And to the degree in which we tap into that and then begin to use our imagination to create the life that we crave, we are indeed very powerful beings. This has been something that has been kept from the masses for so long. And so it's time for us to recognize and for us to actually create the life, a life of peace, a life of joy, a life of love and abundance, a life of harmony, a life of sobriety. We can create it as we begin to imagine it. And so, beloveds, as we bring this month to a close, let's just take another few moments in our own silence. Let's just take another few moments as I simply guide us into just a short mindfulness practice where we can actually see with our own mind's eye where we are and where we're headed. So I'm going to close my eyes and invite you to do the same, or to cast your gaze upon something inspirational. And notice already, since this is now a regular practice that we have on Mondays, notice already how calm and receptive and open you are. And in this calm and open and receptive state, enter a state of gratitude, a state of thanksgiving. Enter a state of openness. Grateful for where you are, what you've achieved, what you've accomplished. Grateful that you recognize that which has already been given. What we see with our physical eye is a result of what we saw in our imagination, in our mind's eye. So for the next few moments, let's go ahead and begin to imagine what the month of April 2021 is like for us. Begin to see yourself participating not only in the Monday group here live, but also see yourself participating in a smaller group, being with some love-minded and like-minded individuals who are willing to grow along spiritual lines. See yourself taking that next step for your own spiritual progress as you grow in your spiritual maturity. See yourself willing to grow along spiritual lines. See yourself participating in such a way that your life begins to change from the beginning of April, from even right now to the end of April, and into the month of May and even June. See yourself dedicating the next 90 days to going just a little bit deeper, to investing in yourself and in your spiritual practice. See yourself engaging with others, really having dialogue and discussion, asking questions. And see the gradual and expansive growth from today to the end of June. Just see how you're growing, how your life is enriched. See you're forming new relationships with love-minded and like-minded people. See yourself utilizing your spiritual living coach to this place where in just 90 days, your life looks a lot different than what it looks like right now. Imagine that kind of support, that kind of community, that kind of personal spiritual growth. And as you gently open your eyes, putting a smile on your face, I invite you to imagine and to see that for yourself over and over again. That you're with a group that is really moving you forward, really assisting you and guiding you in your greatness, in your spiritual success. What most people don't know is that your spiritual maturity and your spiritual success actually supports the rest of your life. It actually supports your physical being, your emotional being, your mental being. It supports you in each and every area of your life. But when there's a spiritual malady, when you're not feeling at your best spiritually, then you're not performing your best in other areas of your life. So continue to see that the perfect group, that the perfect support is there for you. And you'll be able to live a life beyond your wildest dreams. You'll be able to create. You are the architect of your life. You'll be able to design and create the life that you crave. This is what I know to be true for me, and this is what I know to be true for you. And that's why it's my joy to be your spiritual living coach and to bring you this episode of A Spiritual Remedy. Now, look forward to the month of April. The month of April, our topic is going to be connectedness. Now, I know many of us like to fly solo. I know a lot of us like to do our own thing. And yet the sense of connectedness is urgent, and it is so keen to our recovery. And so I invite you to go ahead to Amazon.com and go ahead and purchase my book, Begin Within, so you can follow along. It's a playbook for living your spiritual life. Step-by-step instructions on how to live your genuine life, how to live your most profound life, how to live your best life and love it. Because that's what I want to continue to promote and to support you in living your best life and loving it. And so until next month, know that you are loved and honored and adored, and that I am here for your spiritual support. Until the next time, be well. Bye-bye.
Celebrate life. You celebrate your life. Celebrate the memories, the birds and the trees, the hugs and the kisses, the hits and the misses.